drink responsibly. Hey, there you go. Wow, he's like totally on it. I'm just breathing your oxygen, sir. Hi, my name is Chip, but I'm a cop. Wow, no quitters in here. Man, it's gonna be a tough one. I actually work for the city of Helotes, police officer. Serve on the electronic crimes task force with the Secret Service there in San Antonio. Own a company called Alamo Cybersecurity. We do primarily physical security work, bodyguards and such. We do some digital forensic work. Taught classes in forensics at a couple of different places. Blah, blah, blah. So, you may pick up sarcasm is a gift. I have that gift. My first hack, nobody's ever done that, I guess. It was a big thing back in the day. It was on something that looked like that. It was Angelo State University, and it was before it was illegal. So that means it was pre-1984. Nothing that I talk about should be construed as giving legal advice. The big thing in law enforcement, we always have to give the disclaimer. For specific case information, you want to contact your local authorities, certainly your district attorney's office. States vary. My sarcasm again, all prices plus TCNL. Art for illustration purposes only, all prices. To store for details. The cost of cybercrime, and what I kind of wanted to share with you guys today, just one, give you some real-world examples of what law enforcement deals with when we talk about cybercrime. We tend to focus on the celebrated cases, the things you see in the news and the huge ransomware scares and that. And on a day-to-day basis, those are actually pretty rare. We don't generally deal with things like that. So I wanted to kind of give you an idea of what law enforcement deals with, some of the challenges that we face as law enforcement in trying to investigate cybercrime, and then hopefully give you some practical tips if you ever wind up dealing with law enforcement to kind of ease you through that process. Cost of cybercrime, anywhere from $445 billion to $1 trillion annually. The reason, and we'll talk about that later on, that's a pretty broad range. Quite simply, we don't know how much cybercrime is really being committed. We do know that on average there's about 160 successful attacks each week. Just last month, 55 million voters' records in the Philippines went missing or were captured. 93 million voting records in Mexico. Not a place that if I was politically active, I would want people to know what my views were. 1.1 million users accounts with beautifulpeople.com. Oops. Ransomware attacks, healthcare, school districts, which, by the way, they actually paid. That's just last month. Which, for us, we look at that and say that's just crazy, and all the other talks are designed around that. This is how you can prevent that. But bottom line is, at some point, bad things are going to happen. You're probably going to have to call law enforcement, and then the real problems actually start at that point. Anybody recognize that one? Kind of interactive too, so. Man, you guys haven't drank enough yet. You know who that is? Criminal Minds, Penelope, exactly. Very good. Abby, right, from CSI. And so when you think about law enforcement capabilities, this is what you're thinking of, right? So it's high tech. Here's what it is, and the reality is, it's more like, anybody even know who this is? The original Dragnet. Yeah, like 1967 or something. Real trivia. How about that one? Adam 12. Wow. Excellent. Should have brought prizes to give out for that one. Again, 1968. One of the biggest challenges that law enforcement faces is you tend to identify with things in your teens that you were exposed to. So the people running law enforcement agencies right now, guess what they were watching on TV? Dragnet, Adam 12. That's their experience when it comes to cybercrime. That's what their thought process is. And the reality for, obviously, people in this room and at this conference, it's just not like that anymore. So, when we talk about cybercrime, we tend to break it down kind of in two different areas. The first one is the computer when it's used as either a tool or a target of an attack. And so we have things like identity theft, breach of computer security, fraud, intellectual property theft, of course, pirating. I'm sure no one knows about BitTorrent in here. Child pornography, solicitation of minors, cyberbullying is kind of the new buzzword. It's simply harassment. It's the same bullies that we all dealt with, except now they use social media, so it's something new in terms of politicians. The second way that we tend to view computers is when they have evidence of another crime. And so even investigations for theft, fraud, murder investigations, sexual assaults, prescription forgeries, narcotics and drug offenses, credit card, debit card abuse. Computers contain records or evidence of those. And so from a law enforcement perspective, we're trying to find that so we can build a case and actually be able to present to a DA and hopefully send someone to jail. And by the way, these are all things that I've worked on in the last year. So, and we tend to talk about computers, and so we're thinking networks and servers and those kinds of things, but guaranteed everybody in here has got a computer in your pocket. Phones, tablets, a huge source of evidence for us these days. So, when we talk about victimology, we'll break it down kind of two ways. So we talk about individual victims and then business or corporate victims. Crimes that people tend to run across on for individuals, identity theft, stolen credit cards, card cracking, and then ransomware is pretty prevalent these days. Anybody ever had to deal with identity theft? Really? One person? That is statistically crazy because it's supposed to be something like 1 in 5. Work on your security, sir. Nobody else admits it. We'll talk about that. That's what it really is. So, you're a victim of identity theft. So you pick up the phone, you call 911, hey, someone stole my stuff, and we're going to send out our crack investigative team, right? Sarcasm. It happens. It's a specialized patrol unit right there, man. The reality is, dispatch is going to send out a patrol officer. And a patrol officer, for the most part, you know what? If they can turn on the computer in their car, they're doing pretty good. They're just not, they do not have the specialized training or the experience to really deal with cybercrime. So a lot of times, it ends right there. You're going, a crime was committed, what do I do? And they're like, I'll file a report for you. And then crickets, you hear nothing else after that, which is, hopefully yours meant better than that, but I see you shaking your head. It's like, well, that's kind of what happens. This is actually a real case report that was sent over to me. I don't know if you guys can read it. I'm going to put my glasses on to read it. I will not out the agency, but I was dispatched to blank lane in reference to fraud. I made contact with the victim by phone. He stated that last night he noticed someone had spent over $3,000 out of his checking account at 3 different Walmarts, one in Helotes, Killeen, and Harker Heights, those are all in Texas. The victim stated he does not know how the suspect could have gotten his information. So this is the patrol officer writing, right? I advised the victim he needed to call the police departments in the towns where the card was used and file a report with them so they could investigate. I cleared and returned to patrol. That officer did that. So you've got a guy sitting there going, somebody just ripped me off for $3,000. They call the police. That's what happens. And that, yes, I'm sarcastic, but unfortunately that a lot of times is actually the way it happens. quick little stats there. So in 2014, there were 332,000 reports of identity theft in the United States. 17.6 million Americans, $16 to $18 billion in loss. The last one, though, is actually a good and a bad. 54% were resolved within 24 hours. The bank is in the habit, you call them and say, my card was stolen, something like that. Within 24 hours, they put the money back. But at that point, you're no longer a victim. You got your money back. And so you, as the person who was originally stolen from, really don't care that much anymore. Unless you just have this special need to deal with law enforcement, kind of psychological flaw, it's hard to even get a return phone call after the bank gives someone their money back. It's difficult. And so probably our second challenge is the overlapping and unclear jurisdictions. That last case that I just talked about. So you've got a guy in North Carolina whose money is stolen, or his card number is stolen. The card is used in Texas, 3 different places, 3 different counties, 3 different cities. So you've got a pile of different agencies. Who's actually going to take that and investigate it? And then let's not forget that the victim doesn't feel like a victim anymore because he got his money back. So for business-wise, for the banks, it's just a cost of doing business for them. They write it off. They're going to charge somebody a little bit more on their loan. That's life. Anybody ever heard of card cracking? Awesome. Personal experience? I listened to your talk, though, but you're investigating, you research dark web and stuff like that. So for you guys who don't know what card cracking is, first of all, we'll start off with this. This is the target victim market, if you will. All very young people, 18 to maybe 24. Probably most of them that you would see out on Bourbon Street tonight. Look around on Bourbon Street when you're out there. These guys are potentially victims for card cracking. So what happens is they get contacted via social media. Hey, we're going to pay you money for going out and partying because we're going to use your social media and you're going to help us promote the bars and we're going to pay you to party. 21, I'm going to get paid to party. This is awesome. I have the perfect job. All you need to do is send us your bank card and your PIN number. That way we can direct deposit money straight into your account for you because it's all a lot of cash. Everybody know that's a bad idea? Yes, you don't do that. People fall for this. They fall for this a lot. We get reports of this 3 to 4 times a week. People fall for this. This is just in San Antonio. So it is happening a bunch. And it's predominantly comes out of Chicago. There's a whole nice little racket going on. So the problem is that victims of fraud don't like to. I mean, everybody in this room goes, oh my God, how stupid to send your bank card and your PIN to someone. Well, once you tell someone that, guess what? They think they're stupid too. They don't want to talk about it anymore. They become an uncooperative victim. And they're thinking it's just like identity theft. Well, the bank's going to give them their money back, right? No. Because sending someone your PIN number is a violation of your bank's agreement, your user agreement. You owe them the money. Because the way this scam kind of works, you get someone over in Arizona that uses that card, they deposit bogus checks, then you've got someone in another part of the country pulsing money out, just a little loop, just hitting banks, ATMs, taking that money all back out, all within a 24, 48-hour period. The bank says, hey, wait, these are bogus checks, but you withdrew all this money. Where's our money? The last one I personally worked on lost about $7,000 in about a day and a half. The really unfortunate thing was her parents had signed on her account, and so the bank went after the parents and said, she doesn't obviously have money, so we're going to take that $7,000 out of your account. It was kind of sad. There's Kind of a secondary reason, though. People don't like to admit that they were victims of fraud. That's one part. But the second part of that is that investigation, she was contacting through social media, texting, other sorts of applications. So she's using her phone. So as an investigator, I'm saying, in order for me to actually investigate this case, I need your phone and your permission to look inside of it and do a forensic evaluation of your phone. How many people in this room would be excited about handing me your phone, and I'm going to recover everything, even if you've deleted it, by the way? Anybody want to sign up for that? Very few people are going, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. Thanks. And in her case, mom and dad were going to pay for it, so it was okay. So that's a third challenge law enforcement deals with. So no victim, they won't report, no crime, as far as we're concerned anyway. When we talk about corporate victims, and by the way, that picture, the really spiffy ones that we see there in CSI and NCIS, those labs, this is kind of what our stuff looks a little bit more like here. Just stuff laying kind of everywhere. So when we talk about corporate or business victims, intellectual property obviously is a big deal. Insider threats, especially malicious damage. Denial of service, I'm familiar with that one. PCI, and I realize it's payment card industry. For me, I say payment card information. I know I'm wrong. Bear with me for the talk. And then our latest is ransomware. Everybody knows this guy? Milton. Unhappy employees can do huge amounts of damage to your company, to your corporate brand. And it's not the one that you walked in one day and said, you know what, I'm going to fire you and I'm going to have security escort you out. It is the person who's been sitting there for months thinking about things and thinking about what they're going to do. And then they start going, you know what, I worked on this project. That work is mine. And they start deleting it. And they start deleting copies. And by the time everything's gone, depending upon how your backup setups work, you may or may not even have backups to recover some of this stuff. 32% of all incidents involved insiders. SQL. Hi, my name is Drop Table User. It's okay. Flip over real quick. Median cost for crisis services, forensics, notification services, legal guidance, and other, $110,000. Somebody work for like really big corporations, or everybody kind of small, medium businesses in here? Smallish thing. That's tough. You talk about small businesses and say, hey, we just need you to swallow $100,000 this year, or $300,000 this year, because of an insider. It is really, really tough for a business to be able to do. So when we have problems, quick, call IT. I saw somebody's laptop. I am the cavalry. IT's job, get in, get stuff restored, get it back up, get us running as quickly as we possibly can, understandably. Problem with that is that for us, digital evidence is very volatile. And once it goes away, a lot of times it cannot be recovered. Even when we do recover it, sometimes the chain of custody is so poor that the courts say, you know what, you can't even tell me how you got that. Yeah, we're not interested in picking that up. No evidence, no crime. The really sad thing, a lot of counties consider insider threats, even malicious damage, they consider it a civil matter because it was your employee and they were under contract with you, so you just need to sue them. You fired them, they don't have a job, which means they don't have money, and they certainly are not going to have hundreds of thousands of dollars that you might need to restore the company, and that's a really tough thing. So, payment card information theft, 2014, Target lost $252 million according to that breach. There is not a normal company around that can swallow $252 million. A loss is tough. Locally, right at the beginning of the year, we worked one where a company lost about 12,000 credit cards over about a 2.5, 3-month period. It's actually two things: a Brazilian steakhouse, and I love that, get the meat sweats, and then a big country western bar. Why those two businesses were targeted locally, I don't know. They were just siphoning credit card numbers, information out of those places. Close to 12,000. Problem with that was the company wasn't even aware of it. So from our standpoint, lack of that timely response increases the victim pool considerably, and it decreases the chances of us actually being able to recover decent evidence to be able to file a case. We don't know, because the task force was actually notified by Visa, who also notified them, and what did they do? Called their IT people, who came out and just re-imaged their systems. Yeah, so it could have come from anywhere. We know that we narrowed it down to those two businesses. We have no idea how, because again, it went on for a long time. The longer that time period passes, the harder it is for us to make a case. Sometimes it might be intentional. Yes, sir. It depends upon how rough Visa wanted to be with them. So Visa, so we all know you're supposed to be PCI compliant, the other PCI compliant. If you're PCI compliant, they're not going to charge you back. Visa swallows it. If they were to come in and say, you're an idiot, you had Wi-Fi hooked up into your payment system, it's your fault, then they would charge back. So in that case, we assumed that they were PCI compliant. By the time we got notified and then contacted them, and they went, oh yeah, we already had people come out and re-image everything. We didn't even bother to go down, which is bad for us. So from our standpoint, that lack of timely reporting, occasionally I would say is intentional. The Beautiful People breach happened 6 months ago. So that 1.1 million user accounts that are floating around on the dark web have been out there for 6 months because Beautiful People kept saying, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. Sometimes it's oversight. You take a publicly traded company that deals with that, their stock plummets. I mean, again, that's a tough. The CEO's job is to maintain shareholder value. That's all they care about. They're not interested in telling the world, oops, we just lost, millions of credit cards. Challenge number 6 for us, lack of personnel. We talked a little bit about our patrol guys, but just in general, lack of trained people who can deal with cyber incidents. Most everyone in this room, if you're working in IT, you would not want to go to work entry level in law enforcement. It's $30,000 a year. You're going to take someone that actually has skills and has the knowledge. They don't want to work for $30,000 a year. That's why they went and did the schooling and did the learning. I want to make more than that. And so it's a real challenge for law enforcement to try and get assistance, if you will. San Antonio, Texas, either number 7 or number 6, depending on who you talk to. So we have 1.4 million residents. We say now about 2 million people coming in and out of the city for work. Second only to Washington, D.C. in terms of cyber. So we're like the second cyber center of the United States. Guess how many trained investigators work in that metro for cybercrime? Not nearly enough. A little more than 5. Around 20. 20 people. That's spread out over federal, state people that happen to be down there, and all of their different are different locals. So, exactly. Not nearly enough. Not for the volume of calls that come in. The calls that actually make it to us, a lot of them die in that reporting phase where it's like, yeah, you can call somebody else. I don't know what to do. The ones that make it to us are just difficult. We just don't have people. So, number 7, lack of specified resources on the local level. Governments are starting to sort of understand the need for cyber. They're hearing it a lot more. We're starting to get state grants. There's federal grants that are out there. A big thing and something I would encourage people in your room, in this room, are university partnerships. One of the things we're going to talk about at the end about things that you can actually do. There are ways to get involved where you don't have to work for $30 grand a year, but you could still assist law enforcement in some ways. Through universities, through the task force. Secret Service has the Electronic Crimes Task Force, one I sit on. FBI has ICAC, and then there's some others. Challenge number 8, in criminology, it's referred to as the dark figure of crime. Truly, we do not know how much crime exists. Only about 20% of crime is even reported. So if you were to, the iceberg is a great example of that. That little bit that you're seeing on the surface is nothing compared to what's actually out there. And it has to do with a lot of that people are embarrassed if some of them don't even know. Some people are afraid. Law enforcement is, unfortunately, people don't have, what do they do all day? Eat donuts, write tickets. They're a bunch of jerks. A lot of people aren't real pro-law enforcement, so they won't bother to report things unless they think they can get their money back, which sometimes is entertaining. So what can you do? A big thing that I would say is part of your critical incident response plan, set a threshold. At this type of an incident, we're going to contact law enforcement. This is a problem where people get stuck. We tend to focus on, this is things I'm going to do technologically, and then as an afterthought, it becomes, oh, shoot, should we call the cops? This was really bad. And so it's much easier if you put those policies in place. So set a threshold. So, in this type of response, we're going to call. Some companies we're going to call every single time. If we've got a user and we think that user did something, we're calling the police. We're launching an investigation. Some people are that hardcore. Others say no, only in something really serious and major where we contact law enforcement. The second thing, try and preserve evidence as best as possible. Understand chain of custody. Chain of custody, fancy legal words and stuff, really is, where did this data come from and how did you get it? We're used to documenting procedures. It's not that big of a challenge for IT folks to have a decent chain of custody. And then don't leave a hard drive laying out. What'd you do with it? I left it laying in my car for 5 days, and then it sat in the conference room. As long as you're not doing that, you'll be fine. The courts aren't going to freak out too much over it. But definitely document how you obtained your information. Understand that as IT people, law enforcement is limited by the Fourth Amendment. Right? So the Fourth Amendment, unreasonable search and seizure. I can't look in your stuff without a warrant or your permission. If you're an admin and you're running a system, all of your users have signed off saying, I understand my stuff, I may be monitored. That means you can gather up evidence, all totally admissible, all legal beagle, things that I could not do without going back and writing a warrant. And sometimes writing a warrant is difficult. We have that same problem with judges not really understanding. You write a warrant, and probable cause based on the specific facts. You write it out, and they're like, "What is this?" I've had a judge ask me, "What is an IP? What do you mean application on search warrants? What is kick? What is a kick application? What is that?" I've had to explain to a judge what the kick application was on a smartphone and why I needed to get that information. It was a solicitation of a minor case. Again, user agreements allow you guys a lot of remember when you first call that a patrol officer signs up, he's not going to, give him a little bit of break. He's probably really good at traffic law and breaking up fights and domestic, because that's what they do mostly. When they show up, give them whatever information, but then start asking, and preferably before something bad happens, just like setting a threshold in there. Try and make contact with your local law enforcement. Call your local DA, find out who sits on your task force. Because if you call one of those people directly, now you're talking to someone who actually understands, and it's probably going to be much more helpful for you. Secret Service and the FBI both have regional task force. You know what? If you have a little bit of time, you're committing to one meeting a quarter, and we normally feed you. Not that bad. It's going to a lunch. But it gives law enforcement other experts that they can tap when something happens. If we don't understand something, we know who to call, and that's how those things work. So those are a big thing. And the last one sounds kind of silly. You know what? Report criminal acts. If something you believe to be criminal, make a report. That helps us to justify when it comes to funding. You say, you know what, we've taken this number of reports. We have this number of cases of this type. It allows us to better allocate resources. I know we've been asking questions the whole time, but any specific questions about stuff? What does the FBI do with it? It's not really beyond the scope, but part of my
Alright, so somebody has grants on you live in Houston. You go to your local law enforcement office, they're going to tell you that you can work on something that says I'm not going to. So there are 3 or 4 and which one of those is our report?
The easy one is the Internet Crime Control Center. Because you can do it online and it's a quick response. If you want actual help, I mean, say you're a school district or something like that, and you're like, we are so totally screwed, you have ransomware running around, like, and you don't want to pay, maybe. The FBI actually runs a cyber action team. They can respond anywhere in the world within 48 hours. They pick and choose cases that they're going to go on. But they do it because they're looking to establish evidence leading to something else. So the FBI is actually a good place. Being on the type, ransomware typically is electronic crime, especially if you're doing kind of banking or something like that, then the same sort of electronic crime that they're generally very good finding these things. It's kind of a financial, money kind of thing. Secret Service is if it's other than just straight money, FBI is probably that's a long answer. The last one would be the National White Collar Crime Center. They have investigation resources. They have tools. There are.
Yeah. So why do the counties consider the crimes to be civil?
Because they look at it as a breach of contract. Because of the contractual relationship between an employee and an employer, and it's an easy way for them to go off their and say, you know what, we've got these other 100,000 things we need to deal with, that's a civil thing, and it's an easy to us off. Even though we can use the agreement now, you can try to rebel. And some of the violated user agreement, most states have a thing that I got totally all that. but just and probably you are. If you're calling out of the blue, you reach out to them, they're aware, you sit on some of the passport. If I from San Antonio or that area, there's a cyber tabletop exercise on Unclear. And it's all about incident response and dealing with law enforcement, contact with law enforcement response for a cyber attack. In addition to the normal court, something about the things you do, you can do for people and try to get them used to between all of us.
I haven't seen it come up for a while. Conversation about it a couple of years ago. Is it sort of going around the idea that it may actually be illegal to pay for a ransom? You're sort of like eating and betting that. If I kidnap a kid and you pay food, practically you won't be able to get a lot. So now, you're
although other security might hang on. Obviously that's happened twice that we know of, and when people aren't real big on hey, how can you do it? We sort of being hospital. Yes, it's really exactly a hospital, and then North Carolina people. Even with the FBI, they'll like periodically cycle of hey, we don't pay less. And that's, you go to the FBI, when you become a cybercrime blanket for the decade, these are the current scams, this is what's happening, we'll get in there, our tracking plan, and everybody knows about things that can be done. And that's the problem and that. So most of our grant money is paid over money. Literally, if I cared to my CFO back there, she's an officer, she didn't like to see me every once in a while. I could have unlimited overtime for the state grant back. But sometimes we have to take them on.
So one of the facilitators not that's not going to be
it should be. It depends upon how that local area works. Hopefully your company has cyber insurance. It's going to depend upon how your insurance company deals with it. Because then again, you're transferring, and that's the whole thing with risk management. You're transferring the risk to an insurance company, and the insurance company calls to say, you just have to write out a check for $100,000 or $150,000 or whatever. The VA's office is like, that's serious. If you're a little company that has 30 employees, the state is really bad, but you know when you say, hey, Tom, I need to speak to someone about this. There we go. Sad, I know.
Sure. One question. What's the so since there is this medication skill set, what are we doing this direction today instead of inclusive or change that?
Part of that is happening just by the maturation of the police force. The younger officers that are now in are much more computer savvy, much more technology savvy than the others. So generally the way the police force works, everybody starts off on patrol, the senior driver and writing tickets, and fights, and that kind of stuff. After 2 to 5 years, and now you're eligible to try and go into investigations. Those officers are starting to come in now. You have kind of junior level detectives coming in. Hopefully it's going to get better fast. There is a lot of grant money. some of that here when on the campus, that was course there in August. It's stopped with only looking for but they salary not there. So the federal government needs to realize this is a serious problem. We need to start training people the best we can and following we can. It's starting as the guys who are watching Dragon and well higher and maybe we're on 14.
Yeah, we get this shift from armored personnel carriers to actual training for officers.
It's right now though a lot of the hardest though is another 5 minutes. The happy hour. Right now the typical training is learning tools. When you go again, alternative tools. If you're sending someone we're going to teach you how to run a cell phone. We're going to teach you how to this is how you plug a phone in and you push this button and it does that. The problem with that is not understanding what's actually happening. So when it doesn't work, it doesn't work. There's a lot of Linux-based tools kind of the same thing. And no idea that we're not talking of those things. It's put this flash drive in and hook the computer up. Now it's secure. And that's kind of that's sort of a level thing. At least there's something. It's better than there's still in Texas an online course. They're trying to roll out their training. There's a cybercrime. You walk in on computer money. What they're trying to do? Pull the plug. You got in there not running encryption. Is that not the standard, right? Data arrest should be encrypted. You pull the plug. And a lot of our training has kind of caught up with it because, for the most part, law enforcement is very good at this. It's never going to be that. I mean, way back in the day, it was response to dead. That was the main thing. It's not easy, but it's just getting better. And a lot of those are, a lot of that's intelligence channels. So you've got that, but you know what? They're not going to they're getting out of that. The reason they're getting out is they can go make bank working and so again, we're hoping to release that through this partnership and use the partnership. Unless they would have to be military police, you're not going to go for too long.